A single dad walked into the small grocery store that evening with his 7-year-old daughter holding his hand. It had been an exhausting day, and his mind was full of worries, bills, work shifts, school fees, and the constant struggle of raising a child alone. But he always tried to smile for his daughter, because he never wanted her to feel the weight he carried. The store was unusually quiet. Only a few aisles were open, and most of the staff looked tired, but one person stood out the moment he entered. Behind the counter was a young cashier, no older than her early 20s. Her shoulders were tense, her eyes looked swollen as if she had been crying, and her hands were trembling so badly she had to grip the counter just to steady them. At first, he thought maybe she was cold or just stressed. He didn't want to stare, so he guided his daughter through the aisles, picking up the few essentials they needed: bread, milk, apples, and his daughter's favorite chocolate bar. But every time they passed near the counter, he felt that something wasn't right. It was the kind of silent suffering that only someone who has been through pain could recognize, the same kind he hid on nights his daughter was asleep. When they finally reached the checkout, his daughter placed the items on the counter with her usual cheerful energy. She smiled innocently at the cashier and said, "Hi. I like your badge. It's shiny." The cashier lifted her head slowly, forcing a tiny smile. It was the kind of smile someone makes when they are trying their best to hide everything falling apart inside. Her hands still shook as she picked up the items to scan them. The little girl didn't notice, but the father did. She tried to scan the milk carton, but it slipped, and she caught it just in time. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she whispered, "I'm really sorry." He gave her a gentle shake of his head. "No need to apologize. Take your time." Something in his voice made her freeze. She wasn't used to kindness. And for a brief second, her trembling seemed to ease, but only for a moment. As she continued scanning, her hands shook harder, and she blinked rapidly, fighting tears. Her breathing grew uneven. This wasn't normal stress. It was fear. Deep, consuming fear. When she handed him the receipt, her fingers trembled violently and it slipped from her hand. She bent quickly to pick it up, whispering another apology. That was when he knew he couldn't ignore this. He leaned closer and asked softly, "Are you okay? Your hands, they're shaking. Did something happen?" She looked toward the store's office, then toward the parking lot outside. Fear flickered in her eyes. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, as if terrified someone might hear. "I'm just tired," she whispered. But he had lived through enough pain to recognize a lie born out of fear. He lowered his voice. "Listen, I'm a single dad. I've had days where I was falling apart too. You don't have to tell me everything. But you look scared. If you're in trouble, you don't have to face it alone." Her eyes filled instantly. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could wipe it away. Her lips trembled as she tried to gather strength. My ex is outside," she whispered shakily. "He's been following me for days. He waits for my shift to end. He calls me, threatens me, won't leave me alone. I told the police, but they said to just block him. He's out there right now. I'm scared to walk to my car." The father felt his chest tighten. This was worse than anything he imagined. She continued, her voice breaking, "I don't have family here. I just moved for this job. I can't afford to miss work. And I don't have anyone to walk me to my car. I just don't feel safe." Before the father could speak, his daughter gently tugged on his shirt and whispered, "Daddy, we should help her." Children always see the truth so simply. He nodded and looked back at the cashier. "You're not going out there alone. Not tonight. Not any night until this stops. I'll walk you to your car. And I'll stay until you're safely gone." Her eyes widened. I don't want you to get involved. What if he tries something?" He smiled softly. "I'm a parent. Protecting someone is not something I fear." For the first time, she let out a weak laugh, quickly wiping the tears on her cheek. When her shift ended, the manager joined them after hearing what happened. Together, the father, his daughter, and the manager walked her outside. In the parking lot, a dark car sat idling, a man inside glaring at the entrance as if expecting her to come out alone. But tonight, she wasn't alone. The father walked beside her, steady and calm. He didn't act aggressive, he didn't need to. His presence was enough, a reminder that she was protected tonight. The man in the car saw them coming. His stare darkened, but the sight of multiple people walking with her made him hesitate. He revved his engine angrily, then sped out of the lot without saying a word. The cashier let out a breath she had been holding for far too long. Thank you, she whispered, wiping her face. If you hadn't noticed, I don't know what could have happened. He shook his head softly. You don't have to thank me. Everyone deserves to feel safe. Her voice cracked. No one has asked me if I'm okay in a long time. You noticed what no one else did. He placed a gentle hand on his daughter's shoulder. Sometimes noticing is all it takes. She drove home safely that night. She reported the man again, and with the store's help, she got support. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. As the father tucked his daughter into bed later that night, she whispered, Daddy, you were like a hero today. He smiled and kissed her forehead. Heroes are just people who choose to care. Across the city, the young cashier finally slept without fear. All because someone cared enough to notice her shaking hands, and to ask one simple question that changed everything. Kindness is powerful. Compassion is life-changing. And sometimes the quietest question can save someone who's silently falling apart.